Fantastic. Thank you very much, Sandy. I've also put my own Apple Watch on at the timer for 9 minutes in case I miss the signs over there. So, hi everybody and welcome to my session. Thank you for staying or for coming along. You can reach me on Threads. Threads are sort of a bit empty. I'm also on X and I communicate a lot with colleagues and students also on Instagram. So we know a lot in this space about belonging, and in our short, concise paper, we use the Allen framework around belonging in higher education. And there are 4 things. Do students have the competency to belong? Do they get opportunities? What are their perceptions? And what are their motivations? And this here is some of our students who are volunteers at our university, and I'm looking at opportunities to belong. And there's been lots of work. If you've been to STARS or you've been here or heard her talking about belonging activities within curriculum. It could be things like a structured orientation that helps students make friends with groups that are similar to them or different to them in the same program, in different programs. But we haven't taught, and there's been some about private Facebook groups that you might join as part of an initiative for a subject or for a cohort. But I'm looking at social media spaces that are a bit more broad. So we have Facebook groups, which is pretty common, Facebook pages, Instagram group chats, which aren't as visible as Facebook group chats, WhatsApp group chats, and Discord. I am, at this point, refuse to dive into what might be out there in Discord for my students. I'm sort of a bit afraid of what they might say. There's also places like Reddit. But I'm investigating, well, one of my students was investigating a page called UTS Confessions. And the QR code actually takes you to UTS Confessions. It's a page with 28,000 followers. As a guide, UTS has 40 to 43,000 students, so not all students would follow the page. And it's been around for quite, pressing the wrong button, long time. So this study was conducted by an arts and communications student named Fran, and it was part of her final year communications project. You might be wondering what an accountant is doing supervising a communications student, but this was part of a subject where they had to conduct some sort of social science research. And Fran used this as a bit of a springboard into moving into a role that is now about teaching students and young people about consent and trying to prevent sexual harm. So she really tried to get into this social media space, and this was in 2021 during one of Sydney's lockdowns, but you know, Sydney lockdown's not like a Melbourne lockdown. So in terms of the research method, Fran engaged in 6 weeks of data collection, doing content analysis, qualitative interviews, and an online survey. And today I'm going to talk mostly about the qualitative interviews. But most universities, who was aware of their university's rant or complaint site? Right, it could be UNSW rants, or I think I found the UC rants page. Doesn't seem to be terribly active. As far as I know, the UTS Confessions team actually has a very good succession plan where they call for moderators. Nobody knows who the moderators of UTS Confessions are. It's this behind the curtain magic that happens. So it was created quite a long time ago, April 2023, and followers are current students, former students, staff, both permanent and casual, and even students from other universities come to sit with the popcorn and look at the gossip and what may or may not unfold. So you don't post as yourself on one of these pages, you go to a form, you submit anonymously, and then it goes up for public consumption. The moderators do actually not publish some things that they think could be defamatory, so they do engage in some moderation. We didn't really talk to them about that, but they post about 30 posts a month. I've been stopped by people, you know, inside a store, and they'll be like, "Oh, Amanda, I still read UTS Confessions. I've been a graduate for 5 years now." So it's really interesting to see how the space works. So the findings from Fran's interview is that during COVID-19, we had really low belonging levels amongst the entire population. Everyone's stuck at home in their bedroom. Nobody had fun on Zoom, realistically. as much as we would have tried. But strangely enough, the interview showed, and obviously there's going to be some response bias here, that students had a really high sense of belonging to the broader general community through UTS Confessions, because it was full of complaints. Oh my gosh, this is so hard. I have no friends. I don't know how to do something. And just the number of people liking, heart reacting, commenting, saying, I feel your pain, here are my suggestions. It was a lot like peer mentoring. So it was a place for people to vent, seek emotional support, and have a sense of belonging. Fran interviewed some of our alumni about why do you still follow 5 years, 10 years after being a student? And they said, we still want to feel part of the community. We think our experiences can help inform decisions. One of the biggest, most popular questions on Confessions is, I'm at the end of my first year and I have no friends. How do I make friends at university? How do I break in? What are my options? And so students always chime in with opportunities. And belonging was driven by past staff, current students, and also current staff. Now, the reason why academics and professional staff started getting involved in responding, we usually just watched from afar, was during COVID-19 we had massive budget cuts in terms of our casual staff. So if you ask the university a question through our portal system, it was 6 to 8 weeks for somebody to be able to respond to your inquiry. I want to enroll in this subject that's full, can I do it? I think I have a clash I need to change, how do I do this? And so in that desperation when they couldn't get a response from the university or they'd be on hold for 45 minutes and the call would cut out, they took to Confessions, and a number of staff, including myself, said, okay, well, we've got to try and figure out how we can help students in this mass way. So rather than students emailing us individually because they didn't know who to contact, they've started doing it online. So staff participate because they're dedicated to providing well-being support. They realise that we're not just teaching students and dumping buckets of content in them. We know that we're teaching the whole student, and we wanted to provide advice on navigating administrative processes. If you didn't know that you could withdraw after you've completed a subject, especially if you didn't attend and life got complicated, you wouldn't know that that was called remission. And so you'd need to know the exact words to be able to search on the university website to find the link or the process. So a lot of staff answered a lot of questions where students just didn't know the right terminology to ask. And I'm not sure what other search functions on university websites are like, but the search function on our website is terrible. I will go to Google, type in, special consideration UTS, and I'll get a better chance at finding the right page than using the search function on our own university's website. That's being fixed. And students do want institutions to take note of complaints and issues that are raised in these spaces. And when I know that a number of our executive watch, they don't act, but they're keeping an eye. It's a way to keep a bit of a finger on the pulse of students. Oops, I always keep pressing the wrong button. So in conclusion, spaces like these provide a really powerful opportunity. We can't control them. We can't create them. But we can figure out how we might interact in a limited way. Students said, I don't want the university's Facebook account responding to these things. But we found it's also a way for students to engage with each other, and the community just keeps perpetuating itself in terms of caring and growth. And the more students that sort of interact with it, they go, why are you commenting now? Oh, well, I got some good feedback on a question I had a long time ago. So there's this great amount of peer learning. It's a great way to get insights into the student experience, but of course take that with a grain of salt because it's greasy wheels, and they're not always correct. Sometimes when you get complaints and you investigate them, they're not all of what they seem, but this can also be a way to create trust, to say, oh, look, we heard you. And my UTS people here who watch Confessions will know that the current big contention is that our library is open to high school students and the general public. They're like, oh my God, why are high school students here? Why aren't librarians telling them to be quiet? We're trying to study for exams. But it can be a way for staff to create trust. We don't expect any of our colleagues to contribute to Confessions in any way, shape or form. People that do it on their own time and in their capacity. So future-wise, this is where it gets a little bit tricky because Fran has gone off to do another job. We sort of want to do more research, but the problem is now is that I responded to so many questions on Confessions that Confessions has sort of become a bit of an Ask Amanda place. If you go into Confessions, you'll see lots of questions like, I have this problem, blah, 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 blah. And if somebody, Amanda specifically, could respond, I'd be really, really grateful. So we have to navigate and figure out what the ethics are around this, about whether I can actually continue doing this research. But if we can navigate the ethics project and I can get some more people on it, then that is where we'd like to go, to really show the impact of these spaces that we can't control, but play a really, really big role. So yeah, and I think I'm early. Am I early? Awesome. So thank you very much. If you'd like to see what I do with students on social media, I connect with students on a one-to-many aspect to build belonging through my Instagram, and you can connect with me on LinkedIn. So thank you.
There's a scary place full of potential liability and optics disasters.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. So privately, very senior executives, I once got a call from a very senior executives, someone from their team, like, oh my God, am I in trouble for doing this? And they said, keep doing what you're doing. I have a really strong understanding, those of us on faculty who respond have a really good understanding of the rules and processes. Those of us who are frequent responders have been at our institution for 10 to 15 years. So we're all trained in empathy, we're all trained in mental health. So we craft our responses really carefully as well, knowing that we don't understand the student situation on the other side, but we always approach it from kindness. And I do know that senior management are watching. I don't want to get paid for doing it. I just do it out of the love for my institution.
Fantastic. Were you surprised by the way students sought belonging?
I think it's a real shift. So if we dug back into the data of what it was like in 2013, and it was nowhere near as frequent in the postings. The questions were more, or the posts were more like complaints about, like, oh gosh, I got a kebab and it was a bit light on the garlic sauce. And they're much more about process and how do I make friends, and oh, is law really hard, or how do I navigate this subject? So we've definitely seen a significant uptick since COVID in the number of posts. And there is still a lot of, why are these toilets on this floor never working? Or the temperature of the water in the building 1 level 5 bathroom taps, it's like scaldingly hot. But yeah, I think it's just a change in the cohorts. We will see students working in teams chatting each other while they're in the room together, rather than just turning to each other and talking to each other. So I think it's just a generational shift.
Fantastic. Do you think it crosses a line when university staff use personal accounts to reply to or engage with students?
Yeah, this is a really interesting one. I think students know that we do this on our own personal time. And quite often, if you're not sure, you're like, I'm not entirely sure. Or I will say, you're obviously having a difficulty with your subject coordinator. Here is the name of your student faculty rep on academic board, or your rep on the UTS council, or the Students Association. So we're very clear to make sure that everybody knows we're giving our personal opinions. I don't think anybody thinks I officially represent UTS on there. But we haven't had any instances where there have become, no one's tried to sue me yet for responding and providing advice.
Which kind of flows on to the question about invisible workload. What are your thoughts on the role of academics playing in these spaces in relation to their boundaries and time management?
Yeah, so this is a really good one, because the NTEU, in our enterprise agreement, we have a right to switch off. And a lot of my colleagues will be like, oh my God, I don't ever want to respond. Like, I just feel like I'm opening myself up to, you know, a whole can of worms. I don't want like students to know my Facebook account. I have a work Facebook account and I have a personal Facebook account. Same like people might have multiple Instagram accounts. I guess for me personally, as an adult with inattentive ADHD, this just works really well with who I am. And I came into higher education to care for students. I left a firm, a public accounting job. It was way more money than I've ever earned as an academic, but I came because I wanted to care for students. It wasn't about research, though my research is now about students, but I did a discipline-specific PhD. But for me, it's all about building trust and belonging and caring. Like the best thing that happened to me last year, it was the year I won my AAUT award, Teaching Excellence, wasn't that I won AAU Teaching Excellence, it was that a student wrote to me and she said, she had a baby, posted it on Facebook, congratulations, baby was gorgeous. She said, Amanda, I just want to let you know before I publicly announce this, I'm naming her Amanda because I want her to have your tenacity and your drive and your passion for whatever it is that she wants to do. I want to be able to support her in that, and that's why I'm naming her after you. And I think social allows me to fill my cup by building those connections, and that's why I'm in this game. I'm not in it for anything else. It's impact on young people and then how they grow into amazing adults.
I think that's a really good spot to leave the discussion. Congratulations on